And we are live. Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for continuing to watch these videos. Welcome to the Spirit Bubble with Kara.
And Alma.
We are so excited to continue this and be able to continue to help educate and lead others who are pursuing this path and getting to know it and know themselves. Um, so we're kind of starting now. Since we did our introduction, kind of have an idea who we are, we're going to start diving into some other topics now. Of course, first we have to go and talk about our basics here. Now we pretty much have we've broken down spirituality. There's a lot of basics in spirituality that you really have to get over in order to be able to really pursue a lot of the deeper uh, knowledge that it can pertain. Because let's all face it, when we first start, there's a lot of hurdles to come over, isn't there?
Oh, there
So,
really is. That's so
yeah.
true.
Oh my goodness, there's so many hurdles you're going to come across. If you thought life was hard now, wait until you start this. But I promise you, once you get over those hurdles, it becomes so much easier. And that's the whole purpose of this, to give us a direction. But there are some basics really that are really good to understand, which is broken down into trust, love, balance, and morality. Now, absolutely, if anyone has any other categories that they want to discuss in this, feel free to drop a note, a comment in there. Let us know. We'll definitely add it on because we are always open to discussion. However, the first step of really going into this is trusting. Because honestly, if you don't have trust going into this, how are you even going to push further? Right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more because trusting is the essence of defining what you believe and having energy and motivation and passion to pursue that belief. And so if you can't trust what you believe, then what I guess the question is, what might you be doing with your time?
Right. Well, and if you don't trust what you're believing, how are you even supposed to continue pursuing it in the first place?
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Because it's like, okay, you're gonna have some people who are gonna be like, oh, well, I can see this, so therefore I know it's real, right? I can touch it, I can smell it, I can taste it, I can hear it, so therefore it's real, right? Okay, but what about God or any other deity or essence or being that maybe you might be chasing to pursue? You can't see them, right? You can't
So goes the
physically.
common belief.
Right. You can't physically touch, it's so the question is how to get over that hump, right?
Absolutely. Each of us have to come to grips with, what we want to trust in, what we want to have faith in. And I think the first step to finding what you want to have faith in is understanding what you believe. So it's looking inward and finding your beliefs and how that affects your vision of reality.
Right. Just learning to trust in that existence because if you have to rely on something that you can physically touch, hear, smell, or anything like that to know its existence, how are you going to be able to continually believe in that?
Right. It's a conditional belief. It's only
Right,
believing because you can see. There's no faith, there's no trust. It's only real because you saw it.
right.
So so then the question becomes like we were moving towards, do you believe it because you can see it or do you see
See
it
it.
because you believe it?
Exactly. And going in that direction of seeing it because you believe it, it can open up a whole world because you have this spiritual realm, right? That you cannot physically touch, you cannot physically see. Um, we're here on physical Earth right now, right? But there is a connection because of the fact that you know that there is something, there is a connection to it, but it's not one that you can physically see. So, in order to really see it, I want to say essentially like in your mind, in your knowledge, in your heart. Yeah, seeing it in your heart. You have to believe it from the beginning. Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to ever feel it.
Right. The energy comes from within and it goes outward. So you take that feeling, that belief that's inward, inside, and you bring the energy of it outward into your vision of reality. So if you don't first start with the belief that is creating the foundation of how you see things, then you have an empty or maybe shallow dream or vision
Right.
of reality, which might not line up with what you want to believe. And it becomes a disconnect. So I think the first step
Right.
to really believing something is finding the courage to define for yourself what that truth is on the inside.
Right. Not having to rely on a tangible proof because it's not always going to have a tangible proof. Sometimes we're going to go through situations in our life that push that challenge that. I mean, like, for example, in the beginning of my own journey, I had a lot of struggle with doubt. That was kind of like my first shadow, really, that I had ever had to face was doubt. And so the thing is, anytime that I really started doubting, it's like suddenly I felt like I couldn't hear any of the message anymore, you know? And when I couldn't hear the message, it's like, oh, well, is what I've been following, is that even real or is this something that I made up, you know? Because I had those
Absolutely.
doubts planted in me, I wasn't relying on just trust alone. I had to learn that trust and develop that trust.
I'm right there with you. Again, we parallel, which I love when we do that.
Always.
Right? Because doubt was a big thing that I had to overcome in my journey. At first, it started with self doubt, just who I was as a person. I didn't
Yeah.
know what I believed, what I felt passionate about. And for a lot of my journey, I let
Huh.
others influence how I believed and how I lived. And so it was a very, I came to an existential crisis when what
Oh,
what I lived through was not knowing myself because myself was built around other people's visions of me,
right.
right? So I was a shadow of who I thought I was, which
Mhm.
wasn't anybody I knew. So it took getting in touch with myself and overcoming that doubt of who I was to believe in who I was. So I
Right.
could then believe what I felt about my vision of reality. It wasn't
Right.
until I connected with myself that I was able to connect with my connection to divinity.
Right. You had to trust in your own truth in order to follow it.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
absolutely a good way to say it.
Yeah, just really trusting in your own truth because if you don't trust in it, you do stop hearing, you do stop seeing, you do stop feeling. And when you stop all that, it becomes a hurdle that can be really difficult to overcome. So, I mean, I totally get it. For anyone who may be doubting, you're absolutely not alone. Even sometimes, still to this day, because we live in a world where there's a lot of critics. There's a lot of people who want to push their ways onto you and may not realize that your truth is your truth and they need to leave that alone. So they might try to discredit your knowledge. Well, the thing is, you have to trust that in yourself. You have to trust your path, and you have to trust what you've learned and what the journey that you're on. Nobody's is ever going to be like.
No, we really aren't. And that's the wonderful thing is that as we're all walking our separate journeys, we can still learn and grow with each
Yeah,
other because there's parallels that connect us.
yeah.
We've never met in person, but look at us go, how we can flow.
We
Like it's
can.
not about where you are or who you connect with.
Yeah,
It's about connecting with yourself so you can
right,
share that with others.
right. In keeping that trust alive, in the trust of your journey with yourself and the trust of my journey with me. That's what really makes it possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That foundation of trust that just carries it's something to connect over because even if we find we believe something different, it's okay because we have that belief that we know enough about our understanding that we can
Hmm.
stand in our own right without needing others to convince us or believe alongside us.
Right. We don't have to rely on the outside world to know that this is real, that our experiences are true. We don't have to rely on other people, like you said, around you. You don't have to rely on the things that you're being told. You know because you know, and you trust that because you
Absolutely.
experienced it, you know?
And I think that's an interesting thing, getting to experience something, because that I think help you build trust. A lot of times, if you have maybe a negative perspective on life, you might see
Yeah.
your life as having a lot of negative happenings. And so you come to trust in the reality that negative things always happen. The same can be true with thinking positively. And if you believe and find you believe in all things happen for a reason, that trust that you build in that belief will coat the energy that you experience in the future.
Right. It makes it more possible, you know?
Absolutely. You begin to see what you believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just the way that you have to handle it. And, I mean, I get it is hard at first because it just seems like absurd experiences, like let's say you heard a voice in your head that told you, "Hey, why don't you go and do this because this and this and this is going to happen," right? And you think, "Oh, what are you talking about? That's kind of crazy." I'm thinking crazy. Like you're not trusting that. And that's actually a really perfect note upon another thing that trust is highly involved in. This is intuition, okay? This is how you're going to hear a lot of the things. When you become capable of trusting the things that you're hearing, you're saying, you're experiencing, you're going to start developing this intuition. And this intuition is going to be such an amazing guide for you into this.
But it comes with listening to opening
Oh
yourself
my
up
gosh.
to the possibility that a message is there. Just today, I had a friend reach out to me and he said he had an interesting experience that he was out and about and he noticed that more buses were going home and than usual.
Mm,
And he kind of wrote off the intuition talking to him and went on with his day thinking everything was okay. And when he got to where he was going, he realized he had left something at home. And I paused to consider perhaps that intuition was like, hey, bus home, lots of them to take you, get on the bus and go. But
yeah,
because he believed so firmly that everything was okay in the moment, he passed over that intuition and didn't connect the pieces to get the message.
right. Whereas if he had trusted that message and actually really taken in what it was trying to say, it wouldn't have been such of a struggle.
Right, right. Intuition is that inner guide that knows whether it's your higher self, a higher power, however you define it, it's fine. But
Yeah,
it guides you to your best version of yourself. So learning to trust what you believe is also learning to trust yourself and that intuition, that
Uh-huh.
inner voice that's always there, even when you try to drown it out.
Right. Not just trusting what you're getting from the spiritual world, but trusting yourself to receive it and the right way that you were meant to hear it.
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of times that intuition has just really led me, there's, I'm trying to think of an example that really stands out, but it's like moments where like you think, maybe I should stop at the store and get something for work today, right? Thinking, okay, well, no, maybe it won't be too busy, and you just kind of ignore it and you throw that aside. You're like, oh no, you know what? No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, and you throw that thought aside, right? And then you get to work, and suddenly you realize you're so busy that you didn't get break until late, and then all the hot food that you were hoping is no longer available. Just like, dang, you know, if I had stopped at the store exactly as I thought as I originally thought I was going to, I would have had hot food right now.
Isn't it funny how that works out?
Yeah.
Like I remember very early on in when I my my journey kind of paralleled a walk with insanity. So
Uh-huh.
very quickly it became about defining what reality was for me because with my mental illness, I can't always know what reality is.
Yeah.
So it was a journey I walked learning to trust myself and not doubt myself because I'm insane. So, right? And that was interesting because before I had my first bipolar breakdown, I went on what I call my walk of faith, where I left the town I was living in and walked to the town I was born in, and I felt guided the whole way I went. Like it was just serendipitous the way everything worked itself out and carried me where I went, how I got there, who I met with, how the journey played out. It was too perfect to be just my choice, right?
Huh.
And so it opened my mind up to the possibility that something was guiding me from beyond myself. And like I remember the one instance that comes to mind, I had made the choice to walk on the highway because the highway was a main path to get somewhere and I needed to get somewhere.
Okay.
Insanity. But when I got on the highway, this triangle of birds, just three birds flying in a triangle, flew overhead and went off those highway and over into like a forested area.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, that's interesting. I'm going to go that way. And
Oh.
so it was like the first step to listening to something beyond the normal. And
Yeah.
so I followed those birds, and sure enough, they had flown right over a hole in the fence that led me down to a railroad track that
Oh.
I then followed. And that railroad track led to a progression of thoughts that brought me to an epiphany about who I was and what my place was in this world.
Oh.
And then from there, it after realizing that epiphany, it brought me to meet with people that then continued with me on the journey, and it was just so magical. Like it was like this is what I believe, and it's like actually I'm experiencing it, which is so. Then that's where the doubt comes in. Am I really experiencing this? Is it really happening this way? And like the insanity is there. So you're like, no, I'm probably not. But then things just keep happening. And
Yeah.
it like reinforces that what you believe is real and
Yeah.
you can't help but trust it. So as you learn to listen to yourself, that intuition, you learn to trust more and the
Mm.
relationship grows as you connect more with trust and more with yourself through intuition.
Yeah. Of course, trust can be a hard thing to just instantly gain, especially when you're first going into something that radical. It can be very hard to just instantly gain. It's just like so many circumstances show, and then you question yourself and you try to defy it, and then you see the reason why you were being shown the other ways, because when you defied it, that's when everything went wrong.
Absolutely. When you try to pin it down, that's when it doesn't make sense. But when you open yourself up to understanding, to just experiencing it, that's when you truly get to know what you're trusting in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like walking down a dark road, which you can't see any more than say like 5 feet ahead of you, right? And you're walking down this road, you don't know if it's going to turn. You don't know if it's just going to cut off. You don't know if it's going to continue, go downhill or go uphill. You don't know. You're just walking. And the thing is, there could be something amazing laying ahead of you, but like by choosing not to trust it because it's so dark and you don't know and you can't pinpoint exactly this, and this or reason with any of it, you wouldn't have reached that amazing thing that was just a few steps ahead.
Right. So absolutely the message there is to trust. Trust in the message, trust in yourself to know the message and understand it. And then that carries you forward in the moment to know what you need to do next,
Right.
which gets you through all the moments. And they just continue building the more it's just a fun experience, isn't it?
Yes, and just trusting in your overall path and everything that was past now and ahead of you, just trusting everything in it. Because I mean, let's say, I mean, who knows what tomorrow is going to hold? But you know, right now, I know that I'm able to hold a level of trust and say, okay, well, whatever happens tomorrow was meant to happen tomorrow, and whatever happened yesterday, regardless of how bad, good, it was meant to happen. Because the moment that we are living in right now was all created all because of everything that we have done already.
Hmm.
And you never know
Absolutely.
what this moment is setting up for tomorrow. You know, like what if tomorrow, like this what we're talking about now reaches 20 people, right? And then those 20 people they get a positive message and they get a sense of reassurance to be like, okay, maybe I can trust in this. And then it helps lead them forward, you know?
Absolutely. I think a good takeaway to carry with trust is that it's a positive force that feeds itself. Doubt is negative and it tears away at every truth that you have.
Yes,
But
it
the
does.
opposite of doubt is trust. So
Right.
if you have trust, it fills you, it fulfills you, and
Yeah.
it makes you feel better just having that faith that what you believe is real as you need it to be to feel good about it. And that's why I think practicing trust feels so much better than living in doubt
And
because
fear and
oh, absolutely,
I
because
mean,
you get to feel good about the things or positively or whatever words you want to attribute to it. You get to feel well while you're going through these things instead of always focusing on the lacking. And
right.
that's where trust is filling. So it's a good thing to lend your faith to, and they kind of go hand in hand.
And it just being able to live in that mind state also helps you be able to live in your own truth. You know, there's I want to say that there's nothing worse than living a lie. You know,
I agree.
be,
It's very hard to live a false front that people can't see you clearly. It hides who you are. And I think deep down on a real level, we all just hope to be seen and heard. And
right,
if you're lying to yourself, you're lying to others, that's taking away from that level of trust you can have, either
right.
between each other or with yourself.
Or with you versus the world.
Oh, absolutely. That's a big one. A lot of people feel the world's working against them. And it's not until the world proves to them that it should be trusted that they'll believe. But that's not how it works because what they believe is that the world can't be trusted. So they're never going to see the proof of a trustable world because their belief works against it.
Oh, and that
So
can
it's
lead.
about, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that just excellent thought that actually that can lead to such a jaded heart too.
Oh, for sure. It you're it all comes together and that's another
Yeah.
point like balance. Your trust, your faith, your love, it all comes together to lead to the balance you feel in life, which is another video that we'll touch upon in the future,
Absolutely.
but it speaks of the interconnectedness of spirituality. It's not just one thing to believe. It's all of you to feel whole and connected, and that wholeness is what you can trust in.
Right, absolutely. So, regardless of whatever your experience that you're going through in the beginning of your journey, or in the middle, or even in your prime, or wherever you may feel like your prime is, no matter what experience it is, it's happening for a reason, and just being able to trust that just really aids in getting through this. So,
I agree. I
mhm.
agree. So have faith that it's all for a reason, even if the only reason is to better yourself, to learn and to grow. That's a good purpose to have because
Right.
it's a forward progression and it means there's forward momentum to life itself rather than just hanging in the balance waiting for something to go wrong. Isn't it better to find the purpose and meaning behind why you're doing all the things you're doing?
Now, here's an interesting twist, though. Uh, it didn't happen not too long ago. Like I said, doubt can be when doubt is your weakness. It can reoccur sometimes, right? But here's a very interesting thing here. Um, I was in a little tiny moment of doubt, right? And then I was told from spirit, I was told, "Well, it's good that you're questioning this." So, what's your take from that?
I think it's good to question. There's a difference between questioning and doubting.
Yeah,
Questioning is bringing to light something that may be a lingering doubt or unknown in your mind.
yeah.
And bringing that awareness by questioning it allows you to more deeply define what you believe. And I think since life is a journey, we go through layers of understanding. What once made sense in the beginning of our journey slowly shifts and
Right.
shapes itself and evolves and brings us to new moments and new understandings. So it's never, enlightenment or being awake or whatever terms you might have for it. It's not boring because you're not in a state of stasis. You're constantly growing and changing, and every moment is a chance to find that growth and learning.
So
So
you would say kind of based, I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you.
no, go ahead. Go take it
so,
on away.
so essentially you would say that that's a really small moment of experience of questioning was really more like a healing step.
Absolutely. It's kind of like ripping off the band aid so the wound itself can heal. You have to see what you really feel to approach it, accept it, understand it, and release it as you
Yeah.
need to. Right? So it might hurt to face those fears and doubts a little bit because they're scary. But when you face them and you realize what they really mean, you lose that need to fear them and you move forward with
Right.
something that you can trust in that has shaped you into the new you.
Right. And I think in that moment that I was experiencing that when I was told it is good that you are questioning this, right? Um, I pondered for a moment, well, why? why am I being told this? Why is this good that I'm questioning this? I don't get it. And it just kind of launched me into a state of thought that really more brought me to the thought of, okay, well, this is your truth. You need to believe your truth. You are living your truth no matter what anyone else says. Just be you. That's the whole overall thing is you just need to be you. And as long as you're doing that, you're okay.
Absolutely. I had those moments too. I remember sitting with the counselor and my med prescribing doctor crying that the thoughts I were having were so insane, and I couldn't accept them because I knew they were crazy. And it was so at odds with myself because I didn't I didn't want to trust that what I was thinking was real because it
Right,
scared me to know that what I believed was outside the box of normalcy. And that was the real fear there, the box of normalcy that I didn't want to step outside of. And so it was layers of finding myself, of trusting what I believed to really come to that awareness that I wasn't ready to be myself.
right. And that's a lot of what I think this journey is trusting in that presence of ourselves, because for so long I had always viewed, and I'll just only briefly touch on this because this could be a whole other topic, but I believed that serving in this, and what I was being led in serving meant not helping myself, but only focusing on everybody else. And it's just slowly as it eventually, I got that revelation where it's like, okay, well, maybe this journey is about myself. And in being myself, doing my things, trusting in everything that I was in, the place I was in, the people I was with, and what I was doing was what was leading to all of that.
Absolutely. I went through a parallel thing because I think that's a point we all have to
Mhm.
come to that level of acceptance because that's making peace with yourself. And if you
Right,
can find peace with yourself, then you can start to approach peace with the outside world,
right,
with those in your life, with those you cross paths with, right? It
right,
becomes less of a conflict and more of a gentle sharing of who you get to be.
right. But of course, the first step in that learning is absolutely just learning to trust in itself because this right here is the very bottom basic of being able to live in that life. So, to anybody who might be struggling with that trust and experiencing doubts instead, that is completely normal. In due time, you're going to get the puzzle pieces that come together that help you be able to overcome that. But once you overcome that step, everything just becomes so much stronger and easier to do. And just that sense of peace of yourself, the peace of your existence, the peace of what you're doing and your experiences, it becomes so much more bearable and a lot less questionable because you can trust in that what you are going through is indeed real, no matter how different it is from anybody else.
I agree. And that's such a powerful awareness to come to because so many of us are just screaming out to be heard.
Mhm.
Please, no, am I going through this? Is it okay? And yes, 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 it's okay. Whatever you're going through, you're going to make it. You've made it this far.
Yes.
Just keep on going and trust that better is on the way. Just
Right.
keep focusing on being your best self in the moment, whatever
Yes.
that means to you.
Right. However, I believe that concludes our time for today. We definitely look forward to carrying on to our next basic subject, which would be love.
Ooh, I love that
Oh my
subject.
goodness. There's so much you can break down. So definitely tune in with us next time and we're gonna continue on and just continue the discussion of these basics. It's really gonna help you be able to cover your ground of your journey. So
So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.
awesome. Happy journey, happy trusting, and we will see you next time. And